So today we start the new Maseches Horayos. Horayos means to paskin. Here it's talking about the Bezdin, about the psak from the Bezdin, and sometimes the Bezdin can make a mistake. Okay. So we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day, and in this course of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. We're learning also for Shlema, for our father, and for Naftali ben Menucha Bela. Okay, so it's like this. There's a discussion here why Horayos is in Seder Nezikin, because Nezikin is all about damages. Some thought that maybe it should really be in Seder Kodshim, because it's about the carbon that they bring when the Bezdin Paskins and everyone does the Aveira. So it really belongs in Kodshim. But the commentaries say that it's associated with Sanhedrin, because we have Sanhedrin and Seder Nezikin, so this is like a continuation of them. It goes like this: Hayru Bezdin labar alachas mikol mitzvahs hamuras b'Torah. If the Bezdin Paskin, let's say they said that you're allowed to eat a certain type of chalev. Chalev is forbidden fat. Said you're allowed to. Okay. It turned out it was a mistake. But an individual went and he said the Bezdin said it was a psak in the Bezdin. I read it in the Jewish press that the Bezdin said it's allowed. And so he went and he bought some and he ate it. So whether the Bezdin also ate it and he did it together with them, some party that the Bezdin was having, or whether the Bezdin was eating it and then he saw and he ate it after them, whether the Bezdin didn't even have any of this, but he did it on his own because he heard the psak, he's going to be pater mipnei shetala bebezdin. It's going to be exempt because we're going to learn from a pasuk. It's going to be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda later on. We learn from a pasuk that even though the Bezdin themselves aren't going to be chayiv here, but he that relied on the Bezdin is going to be pater. There's going to be another case where the majority of the community violated the rule based on the psak of the Bezdin. And then the rule is going to be that the Bezdin has to bring a carbon. When the Bezdin brings a carbon, everyone else is pater, because the Bezdin brings the carbon on behalf of the community. But here, the Bezdin doesn't bring the carbon because the community didn't do it. And the individual doesn't bring the carbon because he relied on the Bezdin. So it's like left without any carbon. Hayru Bezdin biyada echad mehem shato. Let's say the Bezdin made the psak, and there's one individual in the Bezdin that he knows that it's a mistake. Or there was a student that was there in the Bezdin, but he was eligible to be on the Bezdin, because they had the rows of students in front of the court. And he said, you know what? I know that they're wrong, but they said it, so I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to go and have some of that chalev, that forbidden fat. Whether the Bezdin also did it together with him. Whether the Bezdin did it first and he ate it afterwards. Whether they didn't do it at all and it was only him that did it. Well, now this individual is chayiv. Because he wasn't really relying on Bezdin, because he knew that they were wrong. So he just did it as an aveira. Where it's going to ask, if that's the case, it should be considered a mazid. He did it on purpose. And you don't bring a carbon if you do it on purpose. Who's going to ask that question? You only bring a carbon if you did it by mistake. This is a rule. Someone that's relying on himself when he does the aveira, then he's going to be chayiv a carbon. If he's relying on the Bezdin, then he's going to be pater. See that this is actually only one opinion. There's going to be another opinion that's going to argue. It's going to say that only if the Bezdin covers him, by the Bezdin bringing the carbon, will he be pater. But over here, he's not covered by a carbon of the Bezdin, so he would have to bring his own carbon. So they can rely on the rabbi. His fault. I think it's more like those things, it's more like a doctor. You go to the doctor gives you a medicine. Say, well, you know it's not the right medicine.
I forgot what Chaim Pasuk is.
I don't know what it is either. But if you go to the doctor and he gives you the medicine, say, well, I know he's wrong, but it will be his fault. Doesn't matter whose fault it is, right? Okay. Amar Shmuel, Liyolam, in Bezdin Chayavin, Ad Shiyomer Lehem Mutar Matem. Shmuel steps in. Shmuel says that it needs to be an actual psak. It can't be that he overheard the conversation during their learning, and then he said, "Oh, I understood from that I'm allowed to do it." It needs to be that they actually paskin. They have to say mutar matem. You are allowed to do this. They have to make a statement. Rav Dimi min Rav Dimi takes it a step further. He says, "Ad sheyemela mutar matem lases." Not only that is this permissible, but you're actually allowed to go ahead and do it. So in other words, two levels of psak. One is permissible, and one is that it was permissible in an actual scenario. My timer, what's the reason? Otherwise, it's not considered a real psak. Not considered psak means a verdict. It's not considered a real verdict. Amar Abaya. Abaya says, I can support this. We're going to have three supports for this. From a Mishnah or Brisa. It's talking about a Zakin Mamre. Zakin Mamre is this member of the Sanhedrin that refuses to accept the opinion of the Sanhedrin. And he goes back and he paskins on his own, contrary to what the Sanhedrin says. So he's like rebellious against the Sanhedrin. It's like a breakaway psak, So Chazar Li'irei, if he goes back to his city, Shana Valimed, he teaches and he teaches Kederach Shalimid the way that he understands. How do they? Rebellious elder, right? So Shalimid, he's pater. If he teaches the way he understands, he's pater. However, Hayra Lasais, but if he paskins the way that he paskins, that's going to be chayiv. So we see that there's a difference between just the learning, or if it's Hayra Lasais. Now, what we're seeing specifically is what Rav Dimi said, that it needs to be not just a psak, but it needs to be a psak in an actual scenario. Hayra Lasais, to actually do it. Yeah, you see the extra word there? Not just Hayra, but Hayra Lasais. Amar Rababa says, I also have a support for Rav Dimi. It says, Hayra la bezdin li nase. The bezdin paskin that she can get married. I'm talking about a woman that her husband passed away, and we have one witness to prove that supports that. We don't have two witnesses. We only have one. And the Bezdin had to make a psak on this. So the Bezdin makes a psak that she can get married. Instead of getting married, she went and she has promiscuous relations with someone. Now the Bezdin didn't say that she's permissible. The Bezdin only said that she can get married. So chayevas b'karban, she has to bring a karban. So hitir le'alei nasi, because the Bezdin only said that she could get married. I don't understand exactly what's going on over here, because if she could get married, then that means that her husband died. Her husband died, that means that she has promiscuous relations. So then there wasn't a prohibition of that she should have to bring a karban. She would only have to bring a karban if it was a mistaken relationship, if she's married. But because the Bezdin didn't say that she's entirely permissible, they only said that she's allowed to go get married. So in this case, she's still she's late. Let me take a look 1 second. See how they say it here. turns out that the husband was still alive. That's the problem here. And she has to bring a carbon as if she would be a married woman that had a relationship by mistake. Why? Because the Bezdin didn't say that she's allowed to, that she's permissible. Bezdin only said that she can get married. It doesn't say itira linasei. Yes, I don't. I guess it has to do with the language of the psak. You have to have completed the psak.
But like she didn't follow the direct order, like she changed it, that's all. She changed.
Yeah, but we're not proving. We're not saying that's not the point of it. The point of it is that to prove Rav Dimi that a psak paskening is not enough unless it's in an actual scenario. So the carbon would be. What do you mean the first stage?
She married with her brother?
No, nothing to do with the brother. No. She's a married woman and she has relations with someone else. And it was a mistaken relations. I guess maybe she thought that this was permissible. And it was mistaken. She thought it was permissible because she was told that her husband died. Turns out that her husband is really alive. So she has to bring a carbon. But maybe she shouldn't have to bring a carbon. Maybe she should just be relying on the Bezdin. And if she's relying on the Bezdin, then she should be exempt. You're saying, yeah, but you weren't relying on the Bezdin from a real psak. You were relying on the Bezdin only from a partial psak. And that's not enough. Only if it would be a full psak. Okay. Now, the next support is Amar Ravina. Ravina says, we also learned this in a Mishnah. It says, in the expression that it's using over here, it says that the Bezdin issued a ruling to violate one of the mitzvahs of the Torah. Now, the understanding of this is that
Turn it off.
She's still allowed to go back to the husband or not?
I think if it was relying on the Bezdin, I think she's allowed to.
Can you turn down your machine?
It's really.
He's a
Your
Kohen.
gizmo.
If he's a Kohen, he's asking. Not a
We just learned with the Kohen's wives though.
Not a Kohen.
No, but in those cases, the Cohen's wife can go back to her brother. Why isn't she prohibited?
If the Kohen for
But
sure
it
she's not.
wasn't a rape. It was mama.
But it
was a
wasn't.
mistake. So she brings a korban. So she's not. She's
Yeah.
exempt. But it sounds like she still doesn't go back to her. Doesn't say she goes back. It says she brings a korban. So she should have no blame. She did that.
He's only doing this so that you know that
she's relying on the Bezdin, then I think we learned in Yevamos that she could go back to the husband.
Another interesting case.
Man,
By the way, if you want to.
Dr. Stein is doing the same today. Someone can make it fair after the chakras. The 630 million there's a CM on.
I forgot about
Okay. So from the expression here, we're understanding that lavar means to violate, means that they're actually paskening to do in an actual scenario. Okay. Sulay Midi, the Gemara says, I rest my case. There's nothing more to add to this. It means that we have a support for Rav Dimi that the psak needs to be in an actual scenario, and then the person that violates it would be exempt from bringing a carbon. Ikad Amri, there's another version of this Gemara where we flip the opinions, and we have Shmuel saying what Rav Dimi said, and Rav Dimi saying what Shmuel said, and then all the supports that are being brought are actually brought as questions. Amar Shmuel, Ein Bezdin Chayavan Hashem Lemitar Matim La'asis. Shmuel says that the Bezdin would only be chayiv to bring the sacrifice instead of the individuals, not individual, instead of the majority of the community. If their psak was in a way of an actual psak, that it was in a scenario where to actually do it. Even if they just say it's permissible, even if it was an actual scenario, it's already considered a complete psak. Amar Abaya says, according to Rav Dimi, it's not accurate. We have a mission that says differently. In order to actually be chayav, the Zakin Mamre, the rebellious elder, or for him to be chayav, he needs to actually say it, that you're allowed to do it in a way of an actual scenario where he's paskening at an actual event. Amar Rav Abba also says, one second, Rav Dimi, we didn't learn like that. It says, if the Bezdin says she could get married, but instead she goes and has a nus, and she still has to bring a korban. They didn't say that she's perfectly permissible. They only gave her one instance of permissibility, that she can get married. They didn't say she's perfectly permissible to anyone. Yeah, it doesn't mean that there's a korban. That's it. So this is, the Aveira is only because she's married, not if she's single, right? Yeah, but that's like more of like a rabbinic thing or something. Amar Ravina says, but it wasn't taught like that. Also, another question on Rav Dimi, according to this version of Rav Dimi. If the Bezdin says that to violate one of the mitzvahs in the Torah, but to violate means lavar, means that it's an actual scenario and where they're actually going to commit it. So it was said in a real psak. The Sulaimidi. This Gemara says, I rest my case. It has to be, the psak has to be a psak in a way that it's ready to be carried out. Then the Mishnah said, the individual went and he did by mistake on their words. Now, there's an extra word in this sentence. If the Bezdin Paskin, and the individual went and acted on their words, then that would be understood that the Bezdin allowed for something that really wasn't permissible, and the person went and he did it. When the Mishnah adds in, he went and he did by mistake by their words, sounds like there's another mistake besides for what they said. I know the Bezdin made a mistake. Sounds like he's also making a mistake. So Nisni Vasal PM, why doesn't it just say that he did according to their words, and then we know that was a mistake? Shogig Lamali, why does it say he did a mistake by their words? So Amar Rava says Shogig Lasuye. It's coming to include an interesting case. Peiru Bezdin Shechelev Mutter. Bezdin Paskin that it's permissible to eat the forbidden fat. Okay. He goes to the store and he buys the forbidden fat. Now he has both fats on the table, his kosher fat and his forbidden fat. And he confuses them. And he thought he was eating the permissible one, but he really ate the forbidden one, which he thought was permissible also. Keto. So he's pater. You get what's happening here? There's two mistakes. One is that the Bezdin says that this type of fat is kosher. So he put it on the table. Other mistake is he thought that the really kosher fat was the one that was the not kosher fat. And he ate the not kosher fat thinking he was eating the other one. Now, if he would have known that they were mixed up, would he have stopped? No, he would have eaten it. He would have eaten it also because he thinks they're both kosher. He thinks they're both kosher, but he mixed it up anyway. So what he mixed up is insignificant to him, right? So there's two shagigs here. There's a shagig from the Bezdin, and there's his shagig where he doesn't know what's what. So the Rebbe is saying that the Mishnah is including also this type of, also the double shagig is also pater. Al PM and as Al PM Mamish. When it says by their mouth, it means that literally that his whole mistake was just because of what the Bezdin said. And the Shegig mistake was the other mistake where he mixed it up as well. Bikadamri, that those that say Amarava Shegig Al PM who the Pater. He's only going to be Pater if there's only one mistake here. And the mistake is what the Bezdin's mistake. But if he has a double mistake and he also mixed it up on his own, then he's going to be chayiv. It sounds like, it's very interesting. It sounds like that when he has a mistake, according to this version of Rava, when he has a mistake, the atonement kicks in, and he can bring a carbon. Even though he wouldn't have done anything different, if he wouldn't have made the mistake, he would have eaten it anyway. But because there was a mistake on his part, he's already able to bring the carbon. Very interesting. It's funny that the Gemara says this because we just had two versions of Rava. So for us, we don't know what Rava holds. But the Gemara says what was obvious to Rava, according to each version, it's obvious to Rava. Each version on his own says it's obvious to Rava. The boy Rami Bar Chama, Rami is whatever's obvious to Rava was a question to Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama is his friend. Rav and Rami Bar Chama married the same daughter of Rav Chizda after Rami Bar Chama died. Rav married her. Hayru Bezdin Shechelav Mutter. Rami Bar Chama asked if the Bezdin paskin that the forbidden fat is allowed. And he actually mixed the two up now. And he ate it. What's it then? So Rami Bar Chama has a question. Amar Rava says, I'll prove it to you. Tashma halach yachid vasa shegig al piyam. Shegig al piyam lamali. Why does it have to say he did a mistake by their mouth? It's coming to tell me even when there's a double mistake, he's still exempt. Dilma shegig al piyam hu the pater. Maybe not. Maybe only if it's the mistake was the Bezdin's mistake, not if it's his confusion. Maybe should be chayiv. Okay. Some say that Rava answered exactly the opposite. Rava said, he should really only be pater if it's a mistake because of the Bezdin. That's when he's exempt. But if he also has a confusion here, then he should be chayiv. That was the second version of Rava. Maybe not. Maybe the mistake could be either one or both. Now the Gemara says beplukta. It's actually a machlekes between Amirayim. So it says this question that the two versions of Rava or Rami Bar Chama's question is actually a machlekes that of earlier generations of Amirayim. This is Rava. Rava is like a third, fourth generation, going back to first generation Amirayim. Hayru Bezdin. What's wrong? Which word are you thinking about?
All of them. I'm just having really bad, not able to remember things.
Oh.
Flow.
Yeah, live in the moment.
Ride the waves.
Hang ten. In the summer.
We're all doing it.
Aloha.
Someone told me, if you take a pin, you put it through the globe from Israel, it will come out in Hawaii.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's why it's called the Alohas.
Oh, that makes sense. If you ever been to Hawaii,
What?
that
That's why
makes
it's called
sense.
Aloha.
Yeah.
What's
A true
I don't
professor.
know. What's Aloha?
Aloha.
Right?
Hello.
Means
And
shalom.
goodbye too, I think, like shalom, I
Shalom.
think.
Well, they have the big kahuna.
Yeah, they have a big kahuna. Lost tribes.
Okay. We plucked it to machlekes. Hayru Bezdin shechelav mutter v'neschal flechevin meshumin v'achlei. If the Bezdin says that it's permissible to eat this forbidden fat, the Bezdin made a mistake. Then the person who has the forbidden fat, and he also has kosher fat, mix the two up. And he eats the forbidden one instead of the kosher one. Rav Amar Pata, Rav says he's exempt because Bezdin is relying on the Bezdin, and you're exempted when you rely on the Bezdin. Rabbi Yochanan says no. When you have your own mistake, you're chayav.
Do these fats look alike?
Yeah.
So why isn't it min should be min, and it should be also? I mean, if
No.
you heat enough fat, and let's say it becomes a gel, and then you throw in the other.
Okay.
We threw out the last Gemara.
No, the discussion of min b'minai is when I have more majority of one, maybe even 1,000 of one, according to one opinion, and then a little bit of the other. So here I only have two. I have this one and this
Oh,
one.
so you can't
I don't
even apply
have
that.
the bittul min b'minai. I'm not talking about that. It's just one and one. It's not a.
Even if one dissolved in the other.
We're not talking about dissolving here.
Two
That's
reps.
another discussion. We're talking about the dry mixtures. It's not the liquid mixture is when the wine pours
And
into.
one was definitely in
Here
it.
I have two. Each one is packaged by on two different plates.
And he ate one for sure.
The one.
Yeah, no cholesterol problems back then.
Like he didn't eat the mouse. The mouse was taken out, so it's not here. Here, you ate some. It's a toss up
Right.
which one you ate.
Masrei. Where's the question? Sorry.
Zohar talks about good cholesterol and bad
Oh,
cholesterol
okay, good.
way before
Wow,
we did it.
wow. Masrei. The Gemara has a question. It says, "May am haaretz ba'asaisa." From a person of the earth, when he does this, it's talking about the pasuk is talking about someone commits a sin, he has to bring the sacrifice, the chatas. We're discussing all of it over here. I didn't give an introduction. Talking about a carbon chatas, which is either a female cow,
Surprise!
like a female sheep or a female goat. Kisba or sira. That's a carbon chatas.
He's alive.
That headphones on our hang.
Oh wow, I didn't realize you use an old Gemara.
Old on the Josh from Montreal.
And now I know you're from Montreal. Okay,
You get it from St. Vulcan.
so the Gemara says this is excluding prat lamumar. This is excluding a mumar. You remember what a mumar is? Mumar is someone that doesn't keep the Torah intentionally. He intentionally doesn't keep the Torah, not because he made a mistake. He doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't believe. He says, "I don't believe in this one." So, who has to bring a carbon? Only someone of the earth, only a regular person, but not someone that's a mumar. If someone is a mumar that does a sin, he doesn't bring a carbon. Reb Shimon ben Yosi, Aimer Mishim Reb Shimon, ain't it tzarech. It's not necessary to use this pasuk to teach that. I have another pasuk. It says, "Asher le'tasena b'shgaga," something that shouldn't be done. He did it by mistake. But Asham, Ayhaida, and he was guilty or he was known. It says, "Hashav midiyase maybe carbon ashegase." Leishav midiyase and maybe carbon ashegase. The only person that needs to bring a carbon is someone that when you tell him, by the way, that's not allowed. Shouldn't do that. He says, "I never would have done it if you would have told me earlier." So then he goes and brings a carbon. But someone, if you tell him, "Hey, that's not allowed," he says, "Well, I don't care." Even if he ate it by mistake beforehand, even though it was a mistake. But if he wouldn't have retracted, so then he doesn't bring a carbon. It's only if he would have retracted, then he brings a carbon. The mumar doesn't bring a carbon because when you tell him that, "Hey, you weren't supposed to do that. That was the wrong piece of meat. You ate the treifa one. You ate it, right?" So he said, "Well, so what? I don't care." So then he doesn't bring a carbon.
Are all mumar is mumar lahachis, or that's a subcategory? What's just another term for?
I think over here we're doing a mumar. I don't know if it matters. There's two types of mumar. There's a mumar lahachas and mumar letiyavan. The mumar letiyavan is someone that I just love that thing. I just can't stop. I know I'm not supposed to, but it's just one of the things I can't keep. It's too hard for me.
He doesn't sound
Mumar
like a
lahachas
mumar.
is the one that says, I don't
become a
the
renegade.
Kia,
So there is a
Renegade.
difference.
yeah. Well, it's a difference in, but in
In
regarding
regret.
this, not necessarily will there be a difference because here we're just talking about would he have retracted if he would have known that that piece of meat was the non-kosher.
What if he knew? He didn't just say, I don't care, but he afterwards he said, oh man, why did I do that?
Oh, so
I regret it."
then that's not a mumar. Yeah, mumar is someone that wouldn't have those feelings. So okay,
What would be
sorry, what is it
What would be like a good translation
of a mumar?
of
I don't know. I gotta look in the something like that. So the im isa in if Rabbi Yochanan is correct, if we're gonna say it like this, that when a person has a psak from the Bezdin that this is allowed, even though the Bezdin's wrong, but he confused the two also. Now, if you would have notified him and say that, by the way, the Bezdin, not notify him about the Bezdin, if you would have notified him and said that, by the way, you just mixed up the one that has the new Bezdin's hechsher on it, and the other one that has the old Bezdin's hechsher on it, right? If you would have told him that you mixed the two up, he said, well, so what? The new Bezdin's also good. He would have, so he wouldn't have retracted. So just like by the mumar, we say that you don't bring a karban if you wouldn't have changed your mind. So too, this person, how could Rabbi Yochanan say that he should bring a karban because he confused them? But if you would notify him, he wouldn't change his mind either because it didn't matter to him because the Bezdin said it's allowed.
So he's not shirking responsibility just because, even because of the best info
Right.
different.
So Rav Papa answers this. He says, "Kasav Rabbi Yochanan holds, even the chimisyadale lebeidina hadri behu unami hadri beishav midasikrin bevachayev." Since if you would notify him about both of them, you would notify him that, by the way, you made a mistake. You mixed up the two pieces of meat. This one is kosher with the this hechsher, and this one is kosher with that hechsher. You mixed the two up, and you would also tell him that, by the way, that Bezdin, that other Bezdin, that the Sanhedrin actually, that said that psak is made a mistake, and he would have retracted, so it's still considered that that shav midiyase. If he would have retracted, if he would have been more aware, it's still considered that he's under that category, so it would bring a carbon. That's what Rabbi Yochanan would hold. Amar Rava, made the Rav would agree. Rav says over here that he's pater. Why is he pater? He's talking about where he mixed up two pieces of meat, and both of them have been certified by the Bezdin. One of them is mistakenly certified by the Bezdin, one's not. And he mixed them both. Rava says he's exempt because he was relying on, even though he confused them, but he's exempt because the Bezdin would have allowed it. So it could be a support for the Bezdin. Now, there's a rule like this, that when the Bezdin makes a psak, a mistaken psak, and the majority of the community goes ahead and follows through with that psak, which was really a violation, then the Bezdin has to bring a carbon. If an individual, not the majority of the community, just an individual doesn't, follows through on this Bezdin's psak, then the Bezdin does not bring a carbon. And the individual, according to what we're learning in the Mishnah, also doesn't bring a carbon. Let's say it's 50-50. Half the community violated, half didn't. Plus, there's this one person that violated not because he was following the Bezdin, but actually because he confused the two pieces of meat. So this person would make it from 50 to 51%, right? He makes it 51-49. So, but it wasn't because of the Bezdin's psak, it was because of his own mistake. So this was really a machlekes Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav said that it's rely on the Bezdin, and Rabbi Yochanan says that it's his mistake, and he's chayav. So comes along Rav now and says, I know that he would be exempt because of the Bezdin, but that doesn't mean that he would change the statistics, change the number over here. He won't change the number to be the majority of to be considered now the majority of the community. My time, they all have to be making the same mistake. Okay.
Who adjudicates them? Like, is another Bezdin? They do it.
I think they do it. They all have to be in the same mistake.
Right, not to his own.
Exactly. By the way, this Masechta is known to be a hard Masechta.
What is that?
I don't know if you sense it yet, but it'll come up. You'll see.
Vacation.
No vacation. Bein Shasav Asa Iman. Gemara says, the Mishnah said that the individual went and violated the psak, followed the Bezdin's psak, which was actually a violation. And it doesn't matter if he did it together with them, if he did it after them, or if they didn't do it at all. Talking about the Bezdin, but he did it. So now the Gemara says like this: why do you have to need all those? Why do you need all those cases? Bishlam Maresha, in the beginning case where it says on the bottom line of 2a. In the first case, there were two cases in the Mishnah. One case was where the Bezdin made a psak, and the person followed the psak. It doesn't matter if the Bezdin did it to also follow the psak, or follow the psak first and he did it afterwards, or if he didn't do it at all. He's still considered following the psak. So if you think about that, the way it's working is like this. Not only if he did it together with the Bezdin should he be pater, but even if he didn't do it together with the Bezdin, he did it after the Bezdin finished. Or even if the Bezdin didn't follow the psak at all, they just made the psak, he would still be exempt because he's relying on the verdict of the Bezdin. Doesn't have to be he's relying on what they're doing. So he'd still be exempt. So the order of this is from less of a chiddush to a bigger chiddush. It's working. Not only this, but even that. Not only this, but even that. So it's called leizu afzu. Not only this, but even this. It's an order of writing. It's like a sequence of what. How do you want to make the sequence? You put the lesser chiddush first, and you put the bigger chiddush later. But kal v'chomer is a logic. Here we're not. It's not a logic here. Here we're just sequencing the cases.
He's saying that you say the chomer one first, and you don't have to say the other.
Yeah, because if you would say you won't have to say. If you would say the bigger one first, then okay. The problem is that in the next case of the Mishnah, we have the one member of the Bezdin that knows that the Bezdin made a mistake, and he nevertheless goes according to the Bezdin. It says he's chayev. Now the order over there goes like this: not only if he does it together with the Bezdin is he chayev, but even if he does it after the Bezdin, if he's chayev, and even if he does it on his own and the Bezdin doesn't do it at all, he's still chayev. Now, that sequence is out of order. It should have been the other way. Not only is he chayev if he does it on his own, but even if he does it even if he does it together with the Bezdin, he's still chayev. It should have been the opposite order. So take a look at this. Bishlam Aresha. In the first case of the Mishnah, it says leizu apsu ktani. Not only this, but even this, ela seifa, but in the end case, till chiyuva, but which is when that member of the Bezdin is going to be chayev. Ipchami baile. It should have had the list in the opposite sequence. My answers. Zu vein tzarich leimer zu ktani. There is another way of writing, and that is where I tell you the bigger chiddush first, and then I go on to say, and I don't have to tell you about the other case for sure. That's going to be, and even the other case for sure. I don't even have to tell you. But I'm telling you anyway. Okay. So now v'yada achas v'yada achin mem sheto a talmid v'yolera, or if one of the members of the Bezdin, next case of the Mishnah, one of the members of the Bezdin knew that the Bezdin was making a mistake, or even if he is a student that was fit to be on the Bezdin, but there were still the 70 judges, so he doesn't make it up there. He's just in the rows of the yeshiva that sits in front of the Sanhedrin. It says Tarti Lamli. Why do we need these two cases? Of the two cases is Talmud, a student that's fit to be it could have just been a Talmud or someone that's fit to be in the Bezdin. Amarava Itzrich. Rava says it's necessary to have both of those. Because Salkadaita Chamina, I could have entered your mind to say Hani Mili Gamer V'Savar Al Gamer Savarlai. I could have thought that only if he's has the knowledge to be able to understand one thing from another thing, then he would be chayiv. But let's say he only has one type of knowledge, but not the knowledge to be able to understand one thing from another thing. So nevertheless, so it comes to tell me that he's still going to be chayiv because he was still knowledgeable enough that the Bezdin made a mistake. Yeah, maybe the opposite. I'm not sure. It says the concept of here is lahavin davar mitech davar, that he understands. That's bina. Yes, chachma. Oh, that's you're saying chachma and not bina. Okay. Amalei Abaya says over here that he's lahira, that he's fit to paskin. That means gamar v'savar mashma. That means that he has both things if he's ready to paskin. Has both types of knowledge. Amalei, so Rava responds back, Anohachi kamina. I wasn't reading the words and telling you this. That wasn't from the diuk in the language. What I was doing is imahi. If that would be the case, hava mina hani mili gamer v'savar. I would have thought that you actually need both. If it would only said one of them. However, but if he doesn't have the other type of knowledge, then I would have said that he would be pater when he follows the Bezdin. So Tana Roy. So we have the second case also that he's fit for Hayra. The Mishnah Yisera Afilu Gomer V'Loi Saver Saver Gomer. It's not because of the language of Roy. It's because you added in another case, and that other case that you're saying, that's what tells me that there's an additional case here. It's not the wording of it. The wording of it, if I would look that up in the dictionary, it would not give me the information that I'm now coming out with. That even someone that isn't a full scholar is nevertheless going to be chayiv because he knew that the Bezdin was making a mistake, right? Even him is going. But it's not from the wording of it. It's just because you gave me two cases, so one of them is extra. So why is an extra case that's coming to teach me also an additional case.
This is a scenario of
first. Yes, asking Talmud. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Roy Laira.
That's from this side of the table.
The Gemara says Roy Laira. What does it mean, Roy? What does it mean, Roy Laira? Who's someone that's fit to paskin? Kigain man, like who? Amarava gain Shimon ben Azai v'Shimon ben Zayma, like these sages that didn't have smicha. They were called Ben Azai and Ben Zayma. They were great, very knowledgeable, and from the greatest, but they didn't have smicha. Maybe they were young or whatever.
Why you?
No. They didn't have time to.
Yeah. They were waiting for the Rosh Hashiva for the meeting, for the schedule, for the test. So, like even such a person would be the one that would be chayiv if he knew the Bezdin was mistaken and he followed the Bezdin. Umar says, Amalei Abai says to Rava, Ki hagavna mezidu. Shimon ben Azai or Shimon ben Zayma followed the Bezdin knowing that the Bezdin was wrong. That's not a shaygig. That's not a mistake. You don't bring a korban for something like that. That would be amazing. That would be on purpose. And on purpose, you don't bring a korban. Well, the Taimeh, the Gemara says, 1 second. Hadatanya, this that it says in the Brisa, Basaisa Achas, Yachar Piatzme, is Chayav, Beiros, Bezdin Pater. If an individual does it because he himself thinks it's allowed, then he's going to be Chayav. But if he does it because he thinks that the Bezdin said that it's allowed, it's going to be Pater. Ketzad. What would be a case? Hayru Bezdin Shechelev Mutter. Bezdin Paskin that Chelev, forbidden fat, is actually allowed. When one person knows that it's permissible, or there's a student there that someone that's fit to Paskin, he knows that the Bezdin just made a mistake. Maybe he should also be Pater. It says when one does. Yachid ha'isa al pi atzmai chayev beiros bezdin pater. An individual that does it on his own is going to be chayev, but if he does it because of the bezdin, it's going to be pater. So what would be a case? We are. So our question now is that if he knows that the bezdin made a mistake, then it should be considered a mazid. So how do you have a case? It says going the yada the aser v'katay b'mitzvah shmei divrei chachamim. The dinami the tav mitzvah shmei divrei chachamim. He says just like in that brisa, you're going to have to explain it like this. You're going to have to explain it that he knew that the bezdin made a mistake, but he thought you're supposed to listen to the bezdin even when they make a mistake.
Isn't that the whole basis of Achrei Rabim Lahatas? We go by majority. So the minority might totally think a certain way. But they have to go by what the majority. I don't see the difference.
It's only in the case of now. You follow the majority.
What are you talking about? That's in every base. 2 out of 3. Judge one way. That's what it is.
I don't know how they found out that they made a mistake. I don't know, like, because maybe, like, who would tell the bezdin? How would the bezdin figure out that this was a mistake? Yeah.
Years later.
Right. How would they know that this was a mistake? The bezdin thinks that this is allowed. And then one person in the bezdin says that I know it's a mistake. So what? The majority wins. So how'd they figure out later that it was a mistake?
2 years later, they discovered the chemical that if you put a drop into the non-kosher turns red, and if you put it into the kosher turns blue, and now they know. I'm just saying, whatever. Or a witness comes and says, by the way, you know that fat that I left at you, that was 100% price.
Okay. I don't know the answer.
This could be Bezdin Shomayla there.
That's this side of the table.
Let me just do another 2 lines. Okay, the rule is that if someone relies on himself, he's going to be chayiv. If he relies on the best, then he's going to be pater. What are you coming to include with this? It's let's say there's a person that he never listens to the best, and now he goes and he eats it after the best and says that it's allowed. So you can't say that he's listening to the best and it was Toila bebestin. He always argues with the best. Toila bebestin, what's about the other case where it says that he relies on the bestin? Coming to say that if the bestin paskin and then the bestin retracted, and in the interim he followed the bestin, so then he's going to be exempt. It says Habehedich Tani. That's clear in the Mishnah. It says Tani v'Hadim Mefarish. That's not a problem. You're right. Afterwards, it's going to spell it out. But meanwhile, over here, we already have that understood from the wording of the Mishnah. Let's leave it over here, right by Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. This is like a new piece. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Okay. After davening, we'll have a siyum.
The safety card in your seat pocket.
Will it be live?
The 3 tables
Sorry?
downstairs.
Will it be live?
It's actually called like the.
Have a good Shabbos. Have a safe trip, Ramesha.
Will it be live, the share?
Always
I
like
can't hear.
that, like you go between 2 rooms.
Will it be live?